Hello, youth ministry world. We are having another wonderful episode of Truth Bombs with the Saints about the darling saint, Saint Rita of Cascia, and actually a very important saint to Father Kyle Schnippel, and I'm sure he will explain why in just a minute. So I am joined today by Father Kyle and by our youth ministry volunteer extraordinaire, Sarah Meeker. And so we begin, as we always do, telling you a little bit about Saint Rita and why we like her and what about her story intrigues us the most. So Sarah, do you want to go first, or should we have Father Kyle go? Father Kyle.
Okay, I guess I go first. What I love about her story is she encompasses a little bit of everything. She was a wife, she was a mother, she was a widower. A great example of forgiveness. She entered religious life. She grew up in a troubled house. Her married life was troubled. She really blows out of the water this image that saints lived a perfect life, because her life was far from perfect, but yet she really rose to the occasion, was just a wonderful living example of what it means to be Christ in the world, in a very turbulent world and a very turbulent time.
So, Father Kyle, one of the questions in the Truth Bombs game that I normally don't ask is, because these are people who died typically a long time ago and we did not personally know them, is what did you think when you first met this person? Why is Saint Rita so important to you, and when did you first learn about her?
Well, she's important to me because I was ordained on her feast day. So tomorrow, her feast day is also my anniversary of ordination. And that's when you always knew, especially in Cincinnati, even in the whole Archdiocese of Cincinnati, you know of Saint Rita primarily because of the School for the Deaf. Strangely enough, I have my mom had a cousin and an uncle, so my great uncle ran the festival at Saint Rita's for many years because he had two sons that were deaf. That we grew up north of the city, and he had two sons that attended there, were boarders there. So he moved to Cincinnati and became very involved in the school. I think St. Rita's has an identity in the city, but you don't really know much about the person of St. Rita. And so once I was ordained, when we knew that our ordination day would be on her feast day, we started to, that's when I started to look more into who she was and what she did.
So happy priest-iversary, right?
Yes, 16
Sweet
years.
16. Sweet 16.
Can finally drive.
Can finally drive as a priest. Oh, that's
scary.
Scary. And a little terrifying. Isn't there a St. Rita's in Dayton, or am I wrong? Is there a St. Rita?
Yeah, there's a St. Rita parish in Dayton as well. Yeah.
So there is that as well. That is so fun. Father Kyle, I learned something new every day. My grandmother, my mom's mom, was very much like my mother when it comes to philanthropy and giving money away. But my grandmother's biggest way of giving away money was giving us money as grandchildren to spend at every festival. So we went to every festival. So, and the friary on Coleraine Avenue, they used to have a massive festival, St. Rita's. St. Rita's was always one of my favorites, though, because to walk into a tent that is silent, but there's 200 or 300 people in there eating, and they're all signing. And as a child, it was really, really impactful. It was always one of my favorites to go to, just to see their community and experience it that way. So, yeah, very cool. Look, we could have been at the same festival when we were kids. That's weird.
I never went because I'm 2 hours away, but who knows? Yeah.
It was an epic festival. So,
it was,
Miss Sarah, what you got for St. Rita?
So Padre talked about her life when she was young being turbulent, and one of the things that he didn't really point out was she was married at age 12, which to me is horrifying. Since we do these videos for young people, think about this. Some of you that are watching this, she was married younger than you are right now. And she didn't want to be married. She begged her parents to let her join the convent then, and they didn't allow it. And she was married to a pretty awful man who she—
a mobster.
Yeah, I mean, truly.
Italian mobster even.
And she prayed for him every day and saw some bit of conversion in him and her children. And, you know, so truly a holy, holy woman who lived through a lot of awful, awful stuff. But 12, she was married at 12, guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
At 12.
So she was born in 1381. So she was born a while ago. So it's not like she was born, you know, she didn't live
Right.
in living memory. She lived a while ago when it would have been more common
To be married at 12, yes,
yeah,
but still 12.
Still a little mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's still a little mind-blowing. I mean, even in Laura Ingalls Wilder time, they were only getting married at 17 and 18. They were maybe 16. So not 12 is a little different. Yeah. And I think, well, one thing I find is interesting is how long sometimes it takes from their beatification to their canonization. Hers was, she was beatified in 1626. She was not even canonized until 1900.
Right.
Yeah.
A long, long, long time. Sometimes it goes much faster than that. She did have the twin sons. And Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened to her young boys?
So her husband was killed because, as Padre mentioned, he was a mobster, so he was killed by his rival. And the boy,
who was also a family member.
Right. And her sons, she was so afraid that they would try to avenge their father's death that she ended up praying for them to not do that, and they ended up dying of, I think, dysentery.
Natural causes, dysentery.
Yeah. So some kind of say that that's the first miracle that she kind of prayed into being, that her sons would ended up dying of natural causes rather than committing an awful, awful sin and perhaps ending up in hell.
Yes, she often, I guess that it mentions that she was so thankful that they died at peace and not having actually succumbed to the vendetta that was partly what the culture was like. It reminds me a little bit of Romeo and Juliet with the two families fighting against each other.
Right, very much so.
And death. Yeah. The other thing we haven't talked about is that her little wound that she had on her forehead when she was in religious life. And it said that she had this small wound on her forehead as though a thorn from the crown that encircled Christ's head had loosed itself and penetrated her own flesh. Very fascinating. And we've talked about stigmata. I don't know how many saints we've talked about recently, the stigmata where they have the sores or the blood from their hands, and similar to the way Christ joined into Christ's suffering. This is a little bit different. I don't know if any other saint I've ever talked about or read about had the thorn in the head. But she also was one of those. See, Lidwine is another famous saint that I love dearly. And towards the end of Lidwine's life and Rita's life, they both basically existed on Eucharist alone. They didn't really have need for much other sustenance. But when she came to the end of her life, I guess she asked a family member for a rose from her parents' house, but it was January and the cousin went to get the rose anyway and found a rose blooming in January and brought it to her. So they say she was the saint of the thorn who became the saint of the rose. And often I believe she's pictured with roses. Some of the pictures I've seen, icons and things like that. Anything else we want to say about her? Oh, Sarah. Oh, go ahead, Father Kyle. Did you?
No, go ahead.
Sarah, remember what we talked about when she prayed to 3 saints to get into the monastery?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she prayed, the story is she prayed to John the Baptist, Augustine of Hippo, and Nicholas of Tolentino, I assume an Italian saint. And when she entered the monastery at the age of 36, it is said that she transported into the monastery through levitation at night by the 3 patron saints she had appealed to. That's phenomenal.
Pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, she lived a long time. And I've also seen her compared to Elizabeth Ann Seton. You know, Elizabeth Ann Seton did the same thing. You know, she was a mom, married, mom, widowed, joined
Yeah.
religious life. So wonderful examples of living a full and wonderful life, not just married, but then in religious life too. So.
And going back to her married life, she was married for 18 years. Her married life was not pleasant. Her husband was unfaithful. He was abusive, physically, emotionally, all those things. She endured a lot in her married life, and I just love her response. She prayed for her husband every day. It wasn't, she didn't throw up her hands. She didn't react negatively. And that's not to say we should take it and stay in abusive relationships today, but that importance of praying for your persecutor, I think she's really just a great example of that in a very particular way.
Yeah, and praying for those who do not treat you well is an interesting, wonderful thing to do. Whenever I've prayed for my so-called enemies, God changes things very quickly. Maybe not in them, but in myself, which I find a wonderful part of our faith. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Oh, she's also considered the patron saint, one of the patron saints of impossible causes, along with St. Jude.
Yep.
And the life she led.
I find it appropriate. I was ordained on that feast day.
Oh, Father Kyle.
Yeah.
Especially on some days more than others, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
For real.
Okay. Sarah, do you want to take the stab at the first question?
Sure.
Sarah, this is a new question we have added to Truth Bombs. She always rolls her eyes because she thinks she's going to know what the question is.
I might know. No. What's
Okay.
the question?
If Saint Rita had been a painter, not a house painter, an art painter.
Okay.
What kind of painter would she have been? Would she have been into realism, cubism, impressionism, modern slashing colors across a canvas and saying that's art? What kind of artist would she have been? Or would she have had periods, like different times? Like Picasso, he went through his blue.
Right. All I can think in my head, and I don't know necessarily, Jess may have been a better person to ask this question too. I don't know all the types of art. Jess was an art major. But I just picture her painting things that are beautiful. Just lots of beauty. So I think of all of the churches in Europe that are, the Sistine Chapel and that kind of just beautiful images of Jesus and Mary, and that's what I picture her painting.
I love the answer.
Yeah.
See, look, I really had you stretch your brain muscles this morning.
But
poor Sarah.
I don't know.
I would say I agree that she'll paint beautiful things, but they will also because she has that thorn. There would always be that image of suffering transformed into beauty. I think would be part of it. Yeah.
And we've seen so much art, I know, especially of Jesus. There are times where you see the crucified Jesus and you see light in the midst of the dark, and that when we've seen a lot of that. Padre, you have some art like that over at the rectory where you see that shining light in the midst of the darkness.
Yes. I love Caravaggio for that reason.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Children of God, look that up. There's awesome stuff to see in Catholic art world. Yep.
Sure.
Okay, Padre.
Yes.
Which superhero is she most like? And I'm not restricting you to DC, Marvel, whatever. What superhero is she most like?
The one that came to mind. Huh?
She could fly.
The one that came to mind right away was Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel was born out of
absolutely
a lot of turmoil and upheaval, and made something more. And you see Saint Rita going through that same period of turmoil and upheaval and becoming something greater than she was before.
And she could fly, so it fits.
Yeah, and she could fly.
And
I can fly.
could fly.
Just like a donkey.
I have to tell you, we do like Captain Marvel in our household, but I have to say, by far, the Marvel movies we like Thor, and we like Captain America is another one that we really like too. So. Yeah, but I do like Captain Marvel. That was good.
Yeah,
I like that. I'll never watch Captain Marvel the same way.
I think they need to do way more. This is a movie. This is not a movie review, but I think they needed to do more with Captain Marvel than they did, especially in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, let's just not cut her hair and throw her back on screen. Can we do something a little more? Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, I get to answer a question because there's just 3 of us today. And of course, I get the question that we've had before, and I usually ask Father Kyle, which is, if she were a cooking utensil, which cooking utensil would she be?
I'm glad you got this one.
See, I was thinking about her personality, and I know I have a tendency to take my anger out on things when I clean or cook or something like that. So I could see her, even if she lived in modern times, beating or whisking everything by hand, because she so I kind of see her as the the hand doing the whisking, and she would never have used the KitchenAid mixer. She could have done it herself just because. So I kind of see her in that realm of cooking utensils.
Okay. Interesting.
Rolling pin. Maybe she bopped her sons when they misbehaved. It's
Highly possible.
Very possible. I mean, you're a twin boy. You know what it was like.
Angels. We are angels.
So I see her as a whisk or something like that, but definitely a hand mixer. Nothing electric. She would have done it herself.
Yep.
Very much so. Okay, Sarah.
Yes, Mom.
Miss Sarah, if she was banished to a desert island, what is the one thing she would take with her? She was not exiled. We've done a lot of saints that have been exiled. She was not. She probably would have wanted to at some point.
Yeah. One thing that she would take with her, a rosary.
Oh.
She prayed so much. Just, that's what she would want to continue. So something tangible to,
reminder of her faith.
Yep.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Something of her faith, and probably not a Bible, because I always think on a desert island it get wet, gross.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas the rosary would hopefully stick around for a little bit. Yeah.
So many images of her. She's staring at a crucifix, so that could be another option too. Yeah.
Which she was supposedly staring at a crucifix when she was gifted the wound of the thorn.
Yeah.
So a crucifix would be another thing. Ooh.
Yeah.
Now she have crucifix.
But there's a
in one
crucifix
pocket.
on a rosary. It's just
There is.
Small.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There is a crucifix on a rosary. But as you get older, you can't really see that as much anymore, Sarah. I'm discovering.
She wasn't old. She died when she was like 35. Like, come on.
Did she die? I thought she was older when she died.
No, she was. She died like at 75.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. So she was around. So in her older years, that gets hard to see.
Yeah.
I'm discovering these things, Sarah.
Her body's incorrupt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know they have a national shrine for St. Rita here in the United States? We just discovered in Philadelphia, which is where St. John Newman's national shrine is.
Yeah, it is.
So now I want to go back on mission trip to Philadelphia area so we could go to 2 shrines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, now her body's not there, obviously.
No, her body's in Cascia.
Yeah, not here in the United States. Yeah. But I found that very, very interesting. Oh, Padre.
Uh-oh.
You skipped Sarah. No, you didn't.
I just answered rosary.
Okay.
She just answered. This is Sarah's least favorite question. If they were a can of paint, what would the color be called?
If she were a can of paint. This is a silly question.
I
It
know.
is a silly question, but
like
sometimes we come up with the most beautiful things. I think for St. Christopher, Scott mentioned that it would have to be the combination of the blue and the red, the martyrdom, and so it would actually be a beautiful purple. Like his was very
I was going into the pink realm because I think it would be something very feminine, but not that really like cheesy pink, but that almost like that rose color, just that real rich shade of pink that comes out, and it could be because she's of Cascia, from Cascia, this cascading rose or something like that.
Ooh.
How's that?
Look, so impressed.
I get a point this round.
This is one of those games where the points don't matter. So you just got 100,000 points. There you go, Padre.
All right, I'll cash him in later.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. So, Beck, you know what you need to do today?
That's right.
Those 100,000 points I got playing Druid Palms.
We're cashing them in today. Okay, my question is, if she had been a professor, what would she have taught?
Ooh.
I sort of feel like how to handle dysfunctional families. Well, there are. I mean, I took a class in college. It was a pastoral ministry class, and it was on family ministry and family functioning. Sure. So I think she would have been a great family dynamics teacher and really could have spoken from the heart about how to handle it and how to teach others how to handle it. She obviously handled it with such grace, but she probably had a lot to teach other people.
Right.
But yeah, so family dynamics, family functioning, and she would have said from the very beginning what my family ministry professor said, which was, all families are dysfunctional. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
That was what he said. He goes, don't come to me and say your family's so normal. They're all dysfunctional, each in their own way. And if you all just start there, this class will be so much easier. She would have said the same thing right at the very beginning.
Yep.
Good old St. Rita. Okay. Sarah.
Yes.
What would St. Rita have been terrible at? The things she would not have been gifted by.
What would she have been terrible at? Anything violent. Boxing. Karate. I just, whatever. Shooting a gun.
She would not have been a video game player. I don't see.
Yeah. She wouldn't have had any interest in it. Because she certainly had reason to, with as horrible as her husband was to her, to think of those things.
Right.
But she prayed for him. So yeah. Anything violent.
And if she had gone after her husband, I'm not sure that in that day and age and being in Italy, anyone would have blamed her for doing it.
No.
I just think that would have just been not acceptable, but oh well, and
par for the course.
Yeah, par for the course, and she didn't have anywhere to go to be protected. So
right. Yeah,
absolutely non-violent. Yeah, she would not be playing violent video games or even paintball or laser tag.
Right.
None of it. She couldn't have done it. She couldn't have done it. None of it.
No.
She would have been the youth minister who sat on the sidelines and said, "Now, children."
That's right.
Father Kyle says no. Father Kyle.
It wouldn't have even gotten that far.
That's right. Father Kyle, if she had been on the front page of a newspaper, what would have been the headline?
Well, I mean, it would be right from her story. Widow pardons husband's executioner at his funeral.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So which she did. She wanted to end the feud between her family and the other family, and publicly pardoned him from any any hard feelings, any sense of retribution, anything. She just had this desire for it to stop.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it reminds me so much of JP too.
Yeah.
Forgiving the man who shot him.
Yeah.
Taking something so violent and yet bringing such beauty to it. And that man was forever changed, right?
Right.
How powerful forgiveness can be in our world today.
Maria Gretti too is another one.
Maria Gretti is another one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's another one of my girls. I do love Maria Gretti. Because I'm Rebecca Marie, so I definitely like Maria Gretti. Ooh, I like that. Very, very good. I was looking at my question. Do I really take this one? To be fair, I take this one. Okay, which 3 words best describe Saint Rita? So I would have to say peaceful. Peaceful for sure. Devoted. I think there's a devotion there, not just to faith, but to people, and seeing the best in each other. Obviously, there she is forgiving her husband's executioner. And let's see. Holy. I like holy for her too. I kind of wonder if she was a negotiator. Or if she was more laid down the law with the boys, but probably not too much of a negotiator then. So what do you think? Padre, you have a look on your face.
No, I like negotiator, but I think reconciler.
Reconciler. Yeah. There you go.
Might be a little bit better.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Negotiating always assumes that you're giving something up. That's why I don't necessarily like that, because I don't know that she would have given up on her faith or given a piece of that away, you know. So reconciler for sure, especially with the hubby. Yeah. Thanks for the help, the assist on there.
You're welcome.
So now you just got another 100,000 points.
Woohoo! Cash those in someday too. I'm killing this game, Sarah. I'm destroying you.
I haven't gotten any points yet. What's that about?
I feed you dinner, Sarah.
Oh, fair. Okay, fine.
Okay, fine. Sarah, this is a good one. Okay. If she were an app on a phone, which app do you think she would be?
I keep getting the ones that like are iBreviary. She'd be a prayer app.
Not wrong.
I forget who said, I'd have to look back on the video. Someone said the saint would be an app that if you were on an app for too long, it would just close it and open up the iBreviary or open up the pressure.
Yeah.
I think that fits for Saint Rita too. Boom, you're done. Now you get to look at this.
Time to pray.
She would definitely be in one of those pray always kinds of saints. So that would that would definitely fit. Sorry, do you want another creative one?
No, it's fine.
Oh, so you're okay with it?
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that. I give you 25,000 points.
Okay, thanks.
That's cheating.
200,000 at this point, Sarah.
Shut up.
And I'll take you to Little Goodie Shop, you know, at some point this weekend. So yeah, there you go. That place would not be around without us, because
right?
Yeah.
We buy a lot of ice cream from there. Okay, Padre. If she had broken a world record, what world record would she have broken?
If she would have broken a world record, what would have world record would she have? Long jump, because she levitated.
Oh!
Totally what I was thinking.
Yes, he is totally killing it this time. This is, I'm very impressed, Padre. Wow, we should always do this game with you when you're tired and have had a long week.
Yeah, that's true. My brain goes in weird places.
That's right. That's right. That's what happens with my brain too. Ask the kids when we're on mission trip by about day 3. Like, oh, Brinky, bring it back in.
I can't. I want to, but I can't.
I'm gone. I'm just toast. And we still have 4 days left. That's what I would always say. And we still have all these days left. Okay. My question is, if she kept a locket, what photo would be inside of it? Not her husband, most likely, even though
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
on one side she might have the husband, because I think she would have been one of those really devoted to keep praying for him even after he died.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Because she would have really wanted to see him in heaven someday. So if he was in purgatory, she would have just been, and maybe that a locket would have been a good way for her to see his little face and keep praying for him. And on the other side, I really think, because most lockets have that place for 2 sides, so I'm going to assume it's 2-sided locket. I think she would have had her boys on the other. Being a mom, even though I know she believed and I believe that she really saved them from damnation, right? That really from avenging their father, she still had to have missed them. Had missed what might have been. And again, praying for them and for their souls, for sure. See, I love being Catholic. I love praying for the dead. It's like that time, Sarah, we were at Frisch's with the kids, and the waitress stopped. She goes, "Oh, you were going to pray?" And we prayed, and we did the prayer for the dead at the end. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. And she got real quiet, and she goes, "You pray for dead people before you eat?" Yes, we do. Welcome to Catholicism. Very cool. So very, very cool. Okay, we'll just do 2 more questions and then we'll be wrapped up with this episode. Sarah, what would St. Rita's password be?
St. Rita's password be? Ooh.
I feel like I should hum the Jeopardy theme.
That's not helping. What would her password be? I feel like
Deep Thoughts by Sarah Meeker.
I know,
it's coming.
Right? Yeah. Anybody got any ideas themselves? I'm like,
I'm clueless. Like heaven or bust.
There you go.
Heaven or bust. Yes. Heaven or bust. Yeah. And she would use like a 5 for the S and bust, so it wasn't too easy to figure out.
Something like that.
You know, Sarah, I was also thinking you have been on a couple episodes where we've talked about the saints who have predicted their death.
Yeah.
So maybe her password would have had her year of death in it.
Ooh.
Now, I find this fascinating, and I love how whoever this author is, the one website that I read from, said she returned to God in peace on May 22nd, 1457. They did not say she died. She returned to God in peace. What a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah.
I have to remember that for the next funeral we have. She returned to God in peace. There we go. Yeah, so maybe that password, I do like heaven or bust.
Yeah.
But I kind of wonder if she would have known her death date.
Heaven or bust.
I mean, it could have been
1475.
1457.
Yeah, she absolutely could have. Okay. Heaven or bust. See, now I'm not going to be able to think differently about that. Sarah, you just froze on my screen, and it was funny for just a second because it had your fingers in your ear. Just for a second. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Sarah, you're glitching. You're glitching, Sarah.
Sorry.
Father Kyle, the very last question for today. What unlikely item might you find in their body if she had been x-rayed?
What unlikely item could have been found in her body if she had been x-rayed.
I mean, she
I
did
mean,
have
the easy
the
one is to go
thorn
with,
thing.
I was going to say the thorn. I'm going to go in a really weird place. I think she would have had a small piece of metal near her heart from when Jesus's heart was pierced, that her heart was so broken from her life, but it was always repaired and protected by the pierced heart of Jesus.
Whoa! Another 100,000 points, Sarah. I think I think he really deserves it. And man, when he cashes in these points, it's going to be like,
it's going to be epic.
It's going to be moving chairs or something again. Or you never know what it's going to be. Because at St. John Newman, the fun has only begun when coming back to public mass, right, Father Kyle?
For real. Yeah, for real.
Beginning. So pray for all of us as we bring you all back to public mass and keeping you all safe and sound. But thank you again, Father Kyle and Sarah, for being with us today for this very special patron saint of Father Kyle's, St.
Always
Rita.
A good time.
Yes.
I love her dearly.
Yeah, children of God, we miss you dearly. You know, you can sign up and spend some time with me. I even bring Sarah along sometimes for praying with Brinky, and I bring the snacks. So just sign up. And after June 1st, we'll be starting some summer activities since we don't have Steubenville and mission trip. So make sure you keep an eye on your emails. Until then, we're praying for you. See you soon. Bye. You can wave goodbye to the kids. They like that. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. We miss you. See you soon.